Hello there, and welcome to Why's Love So Hard. This is the third fairy tale I've written for you from the failed love stories you have sent me. If you want to know more about this challenge I'm undertaking, go to my pinned video in my profile and you'll see what I'm talking about. Again, here's my little pink book in which I'm writing your stories, and today's story is about Esmeralda and Billy. Let's get started. Once upon a time, in a high school in Lebanon, there was a beautiful young woman by the name of Esmeralda, who was a grade 8 student at the time. Esmeralda had no interest in boys and was focused on her studies until one day a friendship struck up between her and Billy. It all started innocently enough when Esmeralda asked Billy, who was sitting in front of her one day, for the time. She had been restless all of that day and couldn't wait for the school day to be over. And that was how the short-lived friendship between Esmeralda and Billy began. They would spend recesses together, walking around the school and finding out more and more things in common with each passing day. Billy treated her so sweetly that Esmeralda started to have romantic feelings for him. Of course, she said nothing, but she suspected that he was also developing feelings towards her, such as when they both found a book they liked and he asked her to read it first, or when Billy's best friend teased them about their wedding day. In short, Billy always found an excuse to be around her and to talk to her and to be in her company. Until winter break came and went, and the new school semester brought in a new distant Billy who stayed away from Esmeralda and refused to talk to her. And Esmeralda had enough dignity and pride that she did not reproach him and did not let him see how deeply she was wounded. The following academic year began and they were now in grade 9, and out of the blue, Billy sat next to Esmeralda and started talking to her again. But this time, his conversation had shifted. He told her that he had anger issues to drive her away and bullied her when they had an audience. Esmeralda could not understand how he could be nice to everyone but her. Then they moved into grade 10 and nothing much changed. Billy stares at Esmeralda when he thinks she is not looking, and the few short conversations they have are so dissatisfying that Esmeralda is saddened even more after each brief encounter. One day, Esmeralda confided in her aunt about all that was happening with Billy, and her aunt encouraged her not to live in anyone's shadow, even if it is the shadow of someone she loved. She encouraged Esmeralda to stand tall and proud in the sunlight and to soak up so much sun and light that even when she finds herself in a dark place, she can still bring light to illuminate her path and the path of others around her. After all, life is to be lived to the fullest, and the only way anyone can do that is by loving themselves and by putting their self-worth and well-being first. And so Esmeralda stepped out of Billy's shadow and took a step forward into the light, and she kept walking and she never looked back. The end. Well, that's the first ending, as now you have realized. It is not a sad ending this time though. There is separation, but it's not bad when you're so young to stand up for yourself and to move on with life. This is the second ending. The years passed and Esmeralda became a forensic scientist, and she met her husband Jack at college, and they got married and had 2 lovely kids. They were married for 30 years before Jack died of a heart attack. Esmeralda was 55 when Jack passed away, and her sons were in their mid 20s. She had a tough time adjusting to life on her own after having been in partnership for such a long time. One day, she received an email inviting her to her 40th high school reunion. She called up two of her high school friends and they decided to attend all together. It was like stepping back in time, entering the gym at the high school. It was like prom, but not quite. She wasn't there long before a tall, thin, long faced, big eyed, and thin lipped man with a grey fuzz of hair walked up to her. Hello, Esmeralda. Billy, is that you? Have you been? And Billy told her how he had become a lawyer and then landed a job at the UN and how he now traveled the world for work. Throughout the rest of the conversation, Esmeralda found out that he was now divorced with no children of his own. And by the by, Billy asked Esmeralda out to dinner the following Friday. After a month of their dating, Billy confessed that he had always had a crush on Esmeralda, which came as a total shock to her. But you bullied me in school and barely spoke to me in the end, she said. Well, he replied, my parents had gotten a divorce when I was in grade 8, and they told me of their separation during the winter break of that year. I lost all hope in the world and in love for a long while, and the way I treated you was simply the result of me being bitter and fighting against my feelings for you. It took me a long time and more than 1,000 hours of therapy to learn to trust and love again. And even then, I ended up divorced just like my parents. At least I had no children to traumatize. And that was how a beautiful new love budded between the two again. They married 3 years after they had met again, and Esmeralda was about 60 years old at her second wedding. They would both tell you that even though they share a deep love for one another, they wake up each day with the resolve to appreciate and respect each other and cherish every moment they spend together. And when they face any struggles or hardships in their relationship, their resolve to work things out and return to a state of love becomes paramount to them. Each day brings with it the choice to love one another again, and we choose love every day, every time, Billy says. The end. I hope you enjoyed this fairy tale, and don't forget to follow, like, share, and I'll see you in my lives. And don't forget to send me more of your failed love stories so they could become beautiful fairy tales like these.